Assalamu alaikum, sister. How are you doing?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Canada.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You were in Canada not too long ago.
Yeah, I'm in Canada.
So
what's
I
your
have a question. It's
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can answer it because it might be a long answer, or I'm not sure if it's out of your pay grade or something like that. But I was just curious to know what your opinion, because I know that you guys are Sunni Muslim, and when I became Muslim, I kind of was like I would consider myself a Sunni Muslim. Like I believe in hadith and things like that, but I think because I'm a convert and I only speak English, I don't know Arabic and stuff like that, I feel like information about hadith is like I'm limited on that. So that's why I had some questions about that. I also have a husband, he's Turkish, and he seems to be going away from hadith. Like he has some disbeliefs in it, and he was showing me a lot of talks, Turkish like sheikhs and things like that who were basically rejecting hadiths, and so it kind of made me a little bit confused. And basically, I started asking some questions. I still believe in hadiths, but I was just wondering what kind of stance are we supposed to take on them? Because from my understanding, Quran is like perfect. It's infallible. Like it was preserved, and I hear different things about hadiths. And
Yeah. I mean, listen to that. We've actually recently we're doing something called the London Air series. Yeah, on Sapiens, which is the channel that we do the series on it. And one of the actual episodes we have already filmed was on hadith rejection, or so-called Quranism. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, this stance is a kufr stance. Just to be clear about it. If someone,
you may not know what kufr means.
Yeah,
I
it's a stance of disbelief, which means if at one point your husband states that I don't believe in any of these hadiths at all, that it may be necessary to go to an Islamic judge in your area, or and see if your marriage is still valid, because that might be apostasy.
So he doesn't disbelieve in all hadiths. It's just we were kind of what happened basically is like I was looking up about something about the prophet splitting the moon.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't think that's true. And I said,
yeah, okay, that's look, that I'm not saying that's fine, but that's not a matter of belief and disbelief.
Okay, because when I started discussing about it with him, the reason why he didn't believe in it was because he thought that it was like a contradiction with the Quran, because it says that like the reason why Allah doesn't send down miracles.
The Quran itself says اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر, in chapter 54 verse 1.
Yeah.
The hour has come near and the moon has been split. So there's no contradiction there at all.
But he said also that maybe that is referring to the future, like it doesn't necessarily mean, well, that's what he said, but
yeah, okay, no problem. This is a weird and aberrational understanding. At this point, he's not committing kufr, he's just going against the majority. So, or the overwhelming vast majority. Do you understand? So,
but that hadith is sahih from my understanding. So it kind of, and then I've had other arguments about.
Well, let me stop you there. Look, because before you continue, even if someone says these individual hadiths in Sahih Bukhari are not true, or because of academic reasons or whatever, that doesn't make them a kafir. Okay. That makes them there is some level of freedom in the religion of Islam. It's not the Quran, the hadith. So if someone rejects individual hadith, Sahih Muslim, by the way, has a lot of weak hadith. This might be a controversial statement, but it's not as if it was unintended. Sahih Muslim itself, these tawaba hadiths, and so in the bab, that was almost intended like support a hadith, and so it's known in there. And even Sahih Bukhari itself, there's some hadiths that have been spoken about by other scholars, like Daraqutni and others. So for academic reasons, if someone comes and says, well, like, you know, in Bukhari and Muslim, there are these weak hadiths, and blah, 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 that doesn't make them a kafir in the same way as if someone would bring an ayah and say, this is not true.
Yeah.
You see, so
Okay.
there is definitely a distinction here between the Quran and the hadith from that perspective. If someone comes to Bukhari and says, oh, these individual hadiths, but if that's one surah, that's one, if you like, way in which the thing can look. Another way is if someone says, we don't need the hadith at all, that there's no such hadith that is required, and you know, I don't believe in the hadith. That's actually a kufri statement, because now you're rejecting the messenger in a nutshell. Yani you've made that the Quran that yufarriquna bayn Allah wa rasulihi, as the Quran says. They're literally differentiating or doing tafriqa or separating between the Quran or Allah and the messengers. So these kind of things here, these kinds of things here should be kind of really understood. But to be honest with you, like in terms of the individual thing, like, oh, someone, I don't want to mention who, I'm not going to mention who, but I've met scholars, actual Islamic scholars, who have negated the splitting of the moon for their own scholarly reasons or academic reasons or whatever, muhaddiths, and they said this and they said that. If they'd, like, even scholars have come and said, I don't believe that the age of Aisha was 9. And they're doing it for academic reasons. That's not a kufri statement. It's not a kufri statement, because these things are not something, if you don't believe in it, then you become a kafir. But if someone, remember, rejects the entirety of the need for hadith, that's when you actually need to go to a judge and see if your marriage is still valid. And in fact, you shouldn't, in many ways, you could argue, you should not even, sorry to say, be with your husband until that is clarified. Then you explain to that judge exactly what he has said and what his stances, what his new stances are, because
we did
is kufr akbar.
We did talk about it. He just it's very, very just specific hadiths. He doesn't reject hadiths.
Okay, good. In that case, just wait. Yeah, wait for the session on Quran rejection. Hadith rejection. It should be out maybe the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's good, because I was gonna ask you if you could do something like that, because it's just like the stance was so unclear to me, because I saw so many people, and even because we went to an imam to ask about this specifically, and he was saying like rejecting a single hadith is you're mushrik. And
No.
okay.
But sister, what I would highly recommend is there's a brother within our ecosystem, the Dawah ecosystem, Jake, the Muslim metaphysician. Have you heard of him?
No.
Sorry?
I'll write it. No, I haven't. I'll write it down.
He's got his own channel. You'll find him on YouTube. So Jake, Muslim metaphysician, right? He's an American convert from, I think he was agnostic or whatever he was before.
He used to be Quranian.
So he was not only a hadith rejector, he was a top debater on their side. And then what he did is, over time, he came to analyze every single argument that they have in their arsenal and to refute each single one.
He was there in the session.
Yeah, and check this out. He debated the Turkish guy, whatever his name is, who is the top Quraniyun guy in the world, the top guy who only believes in Quran only understanding, and he absolutely demolished him. So the thing with Jake is he's been through the entire journey, new Muslim, Quraniyun for a number of years actually. So then he came to the understanding that actually you need hadith. So please look up his stuff as well, and he's very accessible. And what I'll do is it's 1 minute 33. What I'll do is I'll actually send him this time stamp, and you can actually catch him on Twitter and DM him and just say to him, look, the brothers spoke to me about you, and he can help you out one-to-one as well, because hadith rejection is a dangerous slippery slope. And even when it begins off with, we were speaking about one or two, those are the scholars and an academic understanding. But for the awam, for the average person, the treatment of hadith should not be with such disregard. Yeah, it should be the classical understanding, which is that actually we do believe in large part that hadith were preserved, and he'll get rid of. I mean, you mentioned Turkish scholars. I mean, I wouldn't say they're scholars, but these Turkish individuals. So they are the ones who are pushing this, and the top Turkish Quraniyun guy has already been refuted by Jake. So anything they bring is going to be inferior to the arguments that he's already addressed, right? So just note that down as well, please.
Okay, yeah, just thank you so much.
Come up, inshallah. You'll get way more detail on that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I'm really glad I asked you guys this. I was kind of nervous about it, but
No,
thank you so much.
Yeah,
Jazakallah.
no worries. Yalla, sorry.
Well, yeah.
Bye.